Welcome to the next 50 years of Cummings Research Park. That has a nice ring to it, I think. As most of you know, since September, the team of Perkin+Will, along with the city, the Chamber of Commerce of Huntsville-Madison County, the CRP Board of Directors, and many stakeholders have been providing input and supporting development of a new master plan for CRP. This master plan is about taking the park from good to great. With an 87% occupancy rate, our park is strong, but we know we can be stronger. And we also know that companies are looking for more than a suburban office park. We must be a vibrant suburban center of gravity for high-tech research and development in our region. We must embrace our legacy, the legacy created and led by community leaders Milton Cummings and Joe Mogwin, and stand firm on that foundation to look to the future. Nearly 55 years ago, Mr. Cummings and Mr. Mogwin, along with other community leaders, had a vision that was beyond their time. And here we are, on the precipice of another time, where strategic vision will boldly lead us into the future. Today, we unveil the recommended master plan and a new look for the next 50 years of CRP. So here to share the highlights of the new recommended plan is Jeff Williams, Senior Project Designer and Associate Principal with Perkin+Will. Jeff?
I'm going to walk you through a fairly quick overview of the master plan. And again, this is a draft of the master plan, that this is just opening a stage of comment and review. But before I do that, I obviously want to thank Erin for her leadership throughout this process, and for the team from both the Chamber of Commerce and from the city, and with special thanks to Mayor Battle. And also to say that none of this would have been possible without the ongoing support of the CRP board, including just my own personal thanks to Mr. Granger. Unfortunately, he can't be here today. So this master plan starts with something that I think is that all citizens here in Huntsville know to be deeply true. And that's that the boldest ambitions of our society come here to Huntsville to be made real. And that's something that was true in the time of Mr. Von Braun and Mr. Kennedy when they looked to the sky. And it's very much true today, too. But we are today building on somewhat humble roots. I mean, it was not very long ago that cotton fields and farmland were turned into some of the highest performing technology companies in the world. And this is a view looking back east over Cummings Research Park towards the University of Alabama, and you can see some of the earliest buildings that were out here that helped support the mission to the moon. And this was the beginning of the planning process. This was about 60 years ago. And then again in the 1980s, the plan was updated. And so the work that we're doing today is the first update that's taken place in nearly 40 years. And it's timely because the many changes are going on with research parks globally, what they are, the way that they're diversifying themselves. And that's exactly what our project is aimed to do. And so for our master plan, really you have to see it in two parts, that these are two faces to the same coin. That it's a master plan that's not just a development plan, in the way that we think about zoning or streets or infrastructure or the character of the place. But it's also, in a way, best described as a business plan that we've spent a long time looking at the market of science here in Huntsville, of digging through patents, of investigating what you might call the innovation ecosystem, that is a much more nebulous term, but absolutely essential to the growth of research parks. And by balance, that the business plan side of our project was actually about 2/3 of the work. And after going through those layers of investigation that we've landed on 7 areas that we see as innovation-led growth opportunities. And many of these areas are very familiar to anyone who works here in the research park. But they come from us looking at a cross-section of the capabilities of the workforce here in Cummings Research Park, also with growth industries, and where those two things overlap. So we're talking about space payload, space platforms, about remote sensing, about atmospheric sciences, simulation tools, cyber-physical security systems, defense optimization, and of course, applied genetics led each step of the way by the Hudson Alpha Institute. But that when you really look at a research park, that it's not just the sum of these parts that make them vital and innovative long into the future. There's a place-based component to this. And at the largest scale, it starts with Huntsville's position within the region as the leading science and technology center for the entire region, but linked to other major centers. But where these ideas really come to roost are at the local level, and the relationships between the Cummings Research Park, all of the activities that are going on with Team Redstone at the Arsenal, relationships between Calhoun as well as the University of Alabama Huntsville, and downtown, and a whole range of other things, the International Airport. And what this creates is this isn't just a workforce or a scientific network, but it also deals with culture and lifestyle, which should be absolutely inseparable when we think about this place. And so when we think about Cummings Research Park, that we're thinking beyond just a research park, that we're looking at this larger network and thinking of Cummings being the engine behind the economy here in Huntsville. And so then turning to the physical place, that there's a flow of ideas through the research park that in a very simple way you can think of as blue sky thinking and research activities occurring at the University of Alabama Huntsville, those flowing through a place that allows for startups, then those startups finding a home in a district tailored towards the needs of medium-sized businesses that are scaling up. And finally, to those apex companies like the one that we're standing in here today. But if you start on the right-hand side of the screen at the University of Alabama Huntsville, and then sort of move west through where it's indicated with number 1, through a startup village, a growth zone then to the west of that, moving northward, and then jumping Research Park Boulevard into the west as that final destination of the place that when you're successful, you have an address here in CRP West. There are many dimensions to the plan. These are a few of the highlights, but I want to walk through, and I'm gonna read this just so I don't miss one of my points. But there's a layer of design that has gone into this plan, and it starts with first recognizing that there are differences across the research park, that one side or one property is very different than the other, and characterized at the largest level that here where we are in the west, that there are still open parcels, so new development is really the thing that's possible to take place here. When we look at the west, we see a situation in which there are some open parcels, but there are also many redevelopment opportunities, and we think that presents a much different opportunity that may over time create a much more urban environment. We believe that in many places, including just outside the window here, that there's a landscape that's designed to be used by people, And we think that across the entire research park that we need to activate the landscape. We need a healthy and active landscape, and that includes a network of greenways, new public spaces, and places that are really oriented for pedestrians and bicyclists. We think that movement really needs to occur in the park. We also have a series of activity hubs, and the way that this graphic reads is you can see sort of concentrations of glowing nodes, so orange activity. And some of those are new parks and new plazas. Some of those are relatively modest, but are activity nodes that we would imagine being programmed with simple mixed uses like pop-up coffee shop or kiosks where you can go and get lunch and actually be outside in the park in a place where you have the opportunity to network with your colleagues. And so I'll walk through each one of these areas in just a little bit more detail before I turn it back over to Aaron. So first, starting with Cummings Research Park East, I mentioned the redevelopment opportunities, and this is the old Chrysler plant that's adjacent to Calhoun Community College. And in these places, there's actually a tremendous amount of opportunity. And for us, that opportunity is around creating a place for startup businesses. There are a lot of old warehouses there, and with simple adaptive reuse that startup companies can get in there with very affordable rents. And then with programming that can come from the research park, that there you find the opportunity for hackathons and maker spaces. And in the bottom left corner, this is a space that I visited in South Australia where an old Mitsubishi plant was transformed into an incubation center with Flinders University, with robotics labs, but also with workforce development programs. So it's a holistic system for community building. Moving up into the north in the scale-up district, that this is an area that's, if you're looking on the right-hand side of the slide, that's focused then at the corner of Bradford and Wynn, being what we think could be a new mixed-use node. And by mixed use, I mean the new activities coming in that help support businesses and also support the lifestyles of the workers that Huntsville is trying to attract, the highest and the best. So when nerdwallet.com, the website, says that Huntsville is the leading city in the United States to attract STEM graduates, that these are the kinds of places that those graduates want to go work and live. You can also see other new parks throughout the district, and we've tried to place those in positions where there's undeveloped land that we can use to build around. And one of those nodes might look like this sketch, so you can see a little bit more density. You can see an urban park in the center, and this is just the kind of space that's just not found right now in CRP. And we think it belongs here. And we think it belongs here so that it can create an environment like this, so that in the evenings that there's a certain density of workers and a density of housing, that families, their kids may come visit them at the end of the day and pick up a hot dog or a beer at the garden here, and take in the evening, that it should be a complete lifestyle opportunity. Looking to Cummings Research Park West, in the west we see the proportionately less need for overall change in the structure of the place. Many good things are already going on here, and we don't want to disrupt that. One thing that we do want to do is give, through our guidelines and eventually through the zoning, give a little bit more flexibility to property owners around some issues about tenancy, also about how much you can develop on your land. And so if you need to, if a federal contract demands that you need to build a high bay space to fabricate a specialty piece of equipment, that high bay space has a place here in CRP. And so we think people should be able to do that. And I spoke about activating the landscape in a network of greenways, and so this is a view on the lake just south of us of thinking about a new node along Explorer Drive that would have a waterfront amenity, a highly designed public space, and in the distance you can see one of the only mixed-use nodes that we're proposing for CRP West, and that would be a waterfront development center with uses that would be really targeted at the employees of CRP, perhaps a hotel and restaurants. Then the last piece is that there are, for us, very special places in CRP West that really define the character of the place, and AdTran is one of those, and there are many others, but at locations where we have entries into the research park, we want to create more landmark institutions that present a sense of arrival as a gateway to the research park. And so this is a sketch of one of the open corners in the southwest of CRP West, of just imagining that future when another large company comes in to build its headquarters. And then creating an environment very much like the ones we see today, but we think the amenities like the lake we have outside here in a way serve as public amenities for the whole park, and those types of features should be recreated throughout the park. So how are we going to get there? We've laid out this vision it's a 60-year vision, and we haven't subjected ourselves to the kind of hubris where we're projecting out a full 60-year vision and all the steps that it takes to get there. But we think that the proof of our concept can be borne out in as little as 5 years or 10 years through about a dozen focus areas. And these are not one-off focus areas, but we believe each one of these initiatives will help create the overall system, hitting each layer of the master plan. And I think that by doing these things, we'll start to see the synergy and the power that's within the research park. And this is somewhat a bland last slide, and I won't end here, but this is just to say that we are capturing all of these ideas, and they're within a series of design guidelines. And I think copies will eventually be on the back table if you want to leaf through those, and those will go to inform zoning. But I want to say in closing my remarks that we've had an incredible experience here in Huntsville, and the quality of the people that we've worked with and the companies that we see almost unlimited potential here. And primarily that's because we believe in places like this that are exciting and dynamic and dense, that over time the question will never be about when is CRP going to run out of land, but it's only how much can CRP do. And that's because CRP is a place that is driven by science and powered by people, including those of you in the room today. So thank you.
As you can see, this plan will truly transform the park. But we couldn't make transformative proposals to the park without also looking at how we articulate the park graphically. We needed to freshen our brand. Many times your brand, the graphical articulation of the brand, is someone's first impression of you. With the recommended new plan, we are creating a physical infrastructure that is vibrant, and our brand should articulate that too. But yet, we must also celebrate who we are. When we thought about who CRP is, we thought of our economic vitality, being the economic engine for North Alabama, the center of research, development, and engineering that is strongly connected within itself and to the arsenal and other areas throughout the region. A continually evolving connection among and within itself. There is connectivity in a circle, that which creates power. Power in a circle, power in our circle. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to present to you the new CRP brand and ask the mayor, Jeff, and Chip to help us reveal how we're going to articulate that. We have created a look that is elegant in its simplicity, but applied with vibrant colors. Because after all, innovation is in our DNA. And hopefully over time, you'll see this fresh brand systematically applied throughout the entire park, so that no matter where you are, you know you are in Cummings Research Park. At this time, I'd like to turn it over to Mayor Battle for a few remarks.
Well, remarks go better than my tearing off the paper here.
This is something we've been looking for a long time as we start repositioning ourselves as a city, repositioning ourselves as a park. 50 years ago we started this park, and this park was a very vibrant, it was something new to be done throughout the world. And to build this park to the second largest research park in America is something that we've got to be very, very proud of, the fourth largest research park in the world. And as we have been building, we've been changing. One of the things that we talk about constantly in the office is your world changed last night. Your world changed in the last decade. Your world changed in the last 50 years. And as that world has changed, we have changed as a park, and we have changed the needs that we see that come before us. As you saw, we have in this plan, we have parks, pocket parks, neighborhood parks, parks within parks. And then you see the boulevards, and you see the idea that you're adding more density and you're adding more urban infill into it. And we've seen the success of having urban infill. And so when you start putting the urban infill in with the parks, with the boulevards, you start coming together with a plan of a park that is a very good park, but can be even greater. And this is what we're taking this to today. We're taking it from a very good park to making it into something greater. And this plan, as you see it today that is coming out, will probably have some tweaks to it. We'll probably have some changes to it. As we said, it's a 50 to 60 year plan, so it's got to be a livable plan. It's got to be a plan that as we go into the future and as things change for us, we also change with the park. And Aaron will be going through with stakeholders groups for the next 3 to 4 months, making sure that we're doing all the right things, that we have this plan down and it is the right plan for us, it's the right plan for our future growth. As we move through this process, the final question is going to come down to how do we pay for it? You know, city government, we look at and we have great plans and we look and say, how are we going to pay for this plan? Lots of different ideas are coming out, possibly a TIF, possibly an association, possibly a business district. Lots of different ideas are coming forth, but I think this is one of the things that as we come through, we're offering more value to the park, we're offering more value to the landowners in the park, we're also offering more value to the businesses in the park and making this a park that reflects the needs of the 2020s and the 2030s and 40s and 50s. Times when many of us probably will not still be here, but the park will still be a living entity and something that drives education, drives the success and drives the prosperity of the Huntsville and the North Alabama area. So I hope each of you, as you look through this, look at it very seriously. We're looking for your input. It's not a static plan, it is an ever-changing plan, ever-evolving plan, but it's a plan that gives us a great starting place on where we need to be as a community, and how we move forward is going to depend on you. So thank you for coming out today, and thank you for being part of it. Aaron, thank you so much. Y'all have done a fantastic job. Perkins+Will has done a great job, but now we see what the future looks like, and seeing what the future looks like makes us feel very promising as a community, and promises the success of this community. Aaron?
But this plan must be a plan supported by our stakeholders. This, after all, is your research park. So as the mayor mentioned, over the summer, myself and members of the city planning and engineering departments, as well as the CRP board, will be meeting with our stakeholders to walk through the plan in detail, to answer any questions and to gather feedback. This feedback will ultimately be used to make any necessary modifications to the plan. In the meantime, the plan is available online at www.cummingsresearchpark.com. The supporting design guidelines are available there as well. And people can also send feedback to us at crpmasterplan@gmail.com. So there are a variety of ways for the next several months for our stakeholders to provide input, because together we will direct the next 50 years of Cummings Research Park. I want to thank you all very much for coming, and thank you to AdTran for hosting us here, and thank you to Perkins+Will very much for the work that you all have done. At the back of the room, we will have detailed plans and maps for you to look through, to ask questions. And I'd be remiss to not also tell you that additionally out in the parking lot, we're holding one of our CRP Lunchtime Food Truck Fests. And we'll have also the plans out there for folks to look at while they grab some food from food trucks. So if you're hungry on your way out, we'd love to have you stop by. Thank you all for coming.